In the quiet suburbs of Des Moines, Iowa, a secret has been festering for nearly 40 years. It's a secret that has allowed a killer to live his life, to grow old, while the family of his victim has been frozen in time, waiting for a justice that has never come. But this isn't a story about a forgotten crime or a nameless phantom. This is different, because what if I told you that the police are, in their own words, 100% certain they know who killed 22-year-old Jamedia Hines, and that he's been hiding in plain sight this entire time? It's a statement that seems to defy logic. If the Des Moines Police Department is certain they know the identity of a killer, why is he still a free man? Why hasn't an arrest been made? For decades, this case has been stalled, not by a lack of suspects, but by a single missing piece of a puzzle that keeps a conviction just out of reach. It is a frustrating, maddening paradox that has left a family in limbo, caught between knowing the truth and being powerless to see it served. The victim was Jamedia Hines, a vibrant young mother of 3 whose life was brutally stolen from her. Her story is not a cold case from a distant past. It is an active, ongoing pursuit of accountability. This is a narrative about a family's unbreakable spirit, an investigation that was crippled by a city's fear, and a truth that is just one phone call away. The final chapter of this mystery is being written right now, and it hinges on the courage of a single person. Make sure you're subscribed to Crime Scene because you won't want to miss a single detail of this agonizing story. The morning of September 5th, 1987 broke over the Riverbend neighborhood of Des Moines like any other late summer day. The air was thick with the promise of autumn, a familiar comfort to the families waking up along Oakland Avenue. It was a Saturday, a day for cartoons and playing outside before the weather turned, but the peace of that morning was about to be permanently shattered. A 7-year-old boy, exploring the wooded area behind an apartment building, stumbled upon a scene that would be seared into his memory for life. There, partially concealed by the undergrowth, was the body of a young woman. The location of this awful discovery was marked by a particularly cruel irony. The woods were directly behind the apartment where the victim, 22-year-old Jamedia Hines, had spent her childhood. A place that should have held memories of laughter and games was now a scene of profound violence. When Des Moines Police Department detectives arrived, they found a scene that offered few immediate answers. The autopsy would later confirm that Jamedia had been brutally beaten and strangled to death. But it also revealed a puzzling detail. There was no evidence of sexual assault. This key finding suggested the motive might have been personal, but without more information, it was just another question in a rapidly growing mystery. From the very first hour, the investigation was fighting an uphill battle against the limitations of its time. In 1987, forensic science was a world away from what we see today. Detectives relied on tangible, visible evidence: fingerprints, fibers, footprints, and witness statements. At the scene, they found no usable fingerprints. The evidence that was collected was preserved, but the tools to analyze it effectively simply did not exist yet. There was no DNA database to run samples through, no concept of touch DNA that could pull a killer's profile from a stray skin cell. The detectives were working with the best methods available, but they were armed with flashlights in a digital world they couldn't have conceived of. They were on their own, and the trail was already growing cold. To understand the depth of the loss on Oakland Avenue, you have to understand the vibrancy of the life that was taken. Jamedia Hines was not just a name in a case file. She was a force of nature. Her brother, Talbray Jackson, remembers her as being wonderfully spunky, a young woman with a huge personality that filled every room she entered. He described her as a natural leader, an old soul, who, even at 22, carried a protective and caring wisdom. She was fiercely loyal to the people she loved, especially her younger brother, and her presence was a source of strength for the entire family. Above all, Jamedia was a devoted mother. Her world revolved around her 3 children, 4-year-old Rashonda, her son Chandre, and her newborn Martwea, who was only 33 days old when his mother was killed. She was robbed of the chance to see them grow, and they were robbed of a lifetime of her love. Her daughter Rashonda, though very young at the time, holds on to precious memories of her mother as a fun family person. She recalls her love for fashion and the sound of her voice as she sang around the house. These small human details are what the headlines miss, the simple daily joys that make up a life. The pain of her absence is felt most acutely in the memories of those final days. Talbray's last memory of his sister alive wasn't a dramatic farewell, but a moment of ordinary, perfect happiness. They were in the car, just driving and talking, when a song came on the radio. They both started laughing, a simple shared moment of connection that has become a treasure to him. A snapshot of her spirit he has held on to for decades. Her influence was profound, and it continues to this day in the most unexpected ways. Talbray shared a story of a gift Jamedia once gave him, a racetrack. It was a simple toy, but he loved it, playing with it until it eventually broke. That single gift, an act of sisterly affection, sparked a lifelong passion. It was the catalyst that set him on a path to a career in professional racing. It's a powerful testament to her legacy. Long after her life was cut short, Jamedia's encouragement and love are still a driving force in the world, a quiet but constant reminder of the incredible person she was. The technological limitations of 1987 were a major hurdle, but they weren't the primary reason Jamedia's case went cold. The true obstacle was far more complex and was woven into the very fabric of the community at the time. To understand why the investigation stalled, you have to understand what was happening in Des Moines in the late 1980s. The crack cocaine epidemic was sweeping across the country, and it wasn't just a problem for major cities like New York or Los Angeles. It had taken root in places like the Riverbend neighborhood, breeding an environment of intense fear, paranoia, and a deep-seated mistrust of law enforcement. This is where Jamedia's case was dealt a fatal blow. The Des Moines Police Department has been adamant that Jamedia herself was not involved in the drug trade, but she had friends and associates who were. In the eyes of the community, this created a dangerous stigma, a guilt by association that immediately complicated the search for answers. When detectives began canvassing the neighborhood, they found that potential witnesses were unwilling to cooperate. The people who might have seen something, the people who knew Jamedia's circle and her final movements, were terrified. This was more than just reluctance. It was a calculated survival mechanism. Speaking to the police could get you labeled an informant, a designation that could carry a death sentence in the violent world of the drug trade. People were afraid of reprisal, not just for themselves, but for their families. They chose to stay silent, to stay safe. This fear created a powerful, unbreachable wall of silence around the case. Every potential lead, every question, and every attempt to build a timeline was met with the same response: nothing. The police knew the answers were locked away within the community, but fear was the warden, and it held the key. Imagine knowing the truth about a murder, but being terrified that speaking up could put a target on your own back. Has fear ever silenced you or someone you know? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. The core problem here wasn't a lack of clues, but a wall of silence built brick by fear. And we're about to see how that wall has stood for nearly 40 years. For Jamedia's family, the murder was not a single event that happened in 1987. It has been an unending nightmare, a wound that has been kept open by the lack of answers and accountability. The wall of silence didn't just stall an investigation. It condemned a family to a lifetime of unresolved grief. At the forefront of the fight for answers is Jamedia's daughter, Jamedia Hines. She was only 4 years old when her mother was taken from her, and she has grown up in the shadow of that loss. Today, she is a powerful advocate for her mother, the public face of her family's crusade for justice. She has worked tirelessly with police and media, refusing to let her mother's memory be forgotten or defined by the circumstances of her death. Jamedia carries the painful certainty that the truth is close, stating in an interview, "A lot of people have some knowledge of what happened to her, and a lot of them are still around us. I just need them to say something." While Jamedia fights publicly, her uncle Talbray Jackson has carried the private wounds of the trauma. He speaks of the total shock of his sister's murder and the lasting trauma and anxiety that has followed him throughout his life. He also points to a critical failure in the aftermath, a systemic neglect that compounded their suffering. "None of us never got any counseling," he revealed. "We just suppressed it because it was just that traumatizing to us." There was no support system, no one to help a young boy and his family process an unspeakable horror. They were left to navigate their grief alone, a burden that no family should have to bear. Perhaps the most heartbreaking story is that of Jamedia's mother. In an instant, she lost her daughter and became the sole guardian of her 3 orphaned grandchildren. She took on the immense, selfless task of raising them, providing them with love and stability, even as her own heart was broken. According to her family, she bottled up her grief, channeling all of her energy into the children who needed her. She was the rock that held the family together in the wake of the tragedy. In 2014, she passed away from cancer, never knowing who killed her daughter. She died without the peace of justice, a fact that adds a profound layer of urgency and tragedy to her family's ongoing fight. For years, the silence surrounding Jamedia's murder seemed permanent, but recently, the cold case has begun to thaw, leading to the bombshell revelation we opened with. The Des Moines Police Department is now confident they know who is responsible. This certainty comes from the dedicated work of investigators like Sergeant Paul Perizek, who has a personal connection to the case and has kept it in the public eye through his Cold Case podcast, Missing in the Metro. He and another sergeant have re-examined the evidence, re-interviewed individuals, and have come to a firm conclusion. As Sergeant Perizek has stated publicly, they are 100% certain about the killer's identity. While they cannot name the individual, police have provided a tantalizing profile of the suspect. They describe him as someone who was prominent in the timeline of the original 1987 investigation. This means he was not a stranger. He was someone on their radar from the very beginning. Furthermore, they state he lacks a bona fide alibi for the time of the murder. This combination of factors has created a powerful circumstantial case, a web of evidence and inconsistencies that all points to one person. So why has no arrest been made? This is the legal hurdle that has kept justice at bay. In the American legal system, being certain of guilt is not enough. To secure a conviction, prosecutors must be able to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, a very high standard. Right now, the case against the suspect is strong, but it's not yet airtight. It's missing one final critical piece to make it prosecutable. As Sergeant Perizek explained, we, in our hearts, know who did this. We just don't have the evidence. That missing piece could be a direct DNA link, but it's more likely to be a first-hand witness account, someone to corroborate what investigators already believe to be true. After decades of stillness, there are finally cracks appearing in that wall of silence. In 2023, investigators received a new tip. While it wasn't the final piece of the puzzle they needed, it was a significant development. It proved that after all this time, someone's conscience got the better of them. It's a sign of hope that the final piece of information is out there and attainable. The police are one witness away from making an arrest. If you believe it's time for Jamedia's killer to face justice, hit that like button now. Your engagement helps this video reach the person who might hold that final critical piece of the truth. The story of Jamedia Hines has reached a critical turning point. This is no longer a mystery about who committed this crime. It is a matter of conscience. The police have their suspect. The family is waiting. The entire case, which has been stalled for nearly 40 years, is now completely solvable. It all comes down to a single piece of information, a single act of courage from someone who knows the truth. But this is a race against time. The suspect is getting older. The witnesses from 1987 are getting older. Memories fade, and the opportunity for justice in a courtroom has a statute of limitations, not in law, but in life. For Jamedia's children and her brother, the wait has been agonizingly long. They deserve to see the person responsible for their pain held accountable. This is a direct appeal to anyone who might be watching. Maybe you were there. Maybe you only saw something small, something you thought was insignificant at the time. Maybe you heard a rumor, a boast, or a confession whispered years ago. That insignificant detail could be the piece that corroborates everything the police already know. The Des Moines Police Department has anonymous tip lines available, allowing you to share what you know without fear. For everyone else, you can be a part of the solution. Sharing this video puts this story in front of new eyes. It extends the reach of this appeal far beyond what the family or the police can do alone. The entire case now hinges on a single act of courage. Will someone with the truth finally break that silence and give Jamedia's family the closure they have fought for nearly 4 decades? The fight for justice for Jamedia Hines is not over. Share this video, spread her story, and subscribe to Crime Scene as we continue to follow cases that demand an answer. We'll see you in the next investigation.